Hello again, everybody. I'm Paul the Nitro Skyrus. Welcome to this edition of Nitro Memories. Thanks so much for joining us. Excuse me there. Today, we're looking back at April 1987. One of the big events that happened in April of 1987 was the Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup Elimination Tournament in Baltimore, Maryland. A two-night tag team tournament, one of the best events of the 80s as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you had teams like the Road Warriors, the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette, the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez and Ravishing Rick Rude, who were the NWA World Tag Team Champions. The Superpowers, Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff, Lex Luger and Tully Blanchard. All types of great teams in that tournament, plus two singles bouts, one per night. Ole Anderson against Big Bubba Rogers inside a steel cage. And then night two, the Nature Boy Ric Flair defends the NWA World Heavyweight title against Barry Windham. And then, of course, the return to ringside of Magnum TA. Boy, that's good stuff right there. That is the good stuff right there. Some of the things that came out of the that two-day event, I can't believe that Ravishing Rick Rude and the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez were seated number one. The Road Warriors should have been seated number one. Remember, they were last year's champs in the inaugural one in 1986. Jim Cornette's Midnight Express. Jim Cornette complained, our team's number 5 seed. We should have been the number 1 seed. Yada, yada, yada. Oh, my God. Jim was lucky to get out with his life at the hands of Ronnie Garvin, who he burned in that cosmic fireball I talked about in a previous episode of Nitro Memories. But there was a change in the Midnight Express. Dennis Condrey split. Sweet Stan Lane came in there. Of course, Stan Lane was a member of the Fabulous Ones, but they apparently split up in 1987 in Florida. Sweet Stan Lane came up to the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette, made quite a debut as the newest member of the Midnight Express and surprised everybody by making it to the semifinals of that year's tournament. They ended up beating Ronnie and Jimmy Garvin by countout in the quarterfinals and then in the second round. Then in the quarterfinals, big upset over the Road Warriors by disqualification to advance to the semifinals where they lost to Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff. The Road Warriors, boy, they were PO'd after they got eliminated by disqualification. Jim Cornette trying to burn Animal again with that cosmic fireball. Right. And Jim Cornette getting beaten the hell out of him. Then Ole Anderson defeated Big Bubba Rogers inside a steel cage with the pile driver. That ended night one. Night two, it was all about Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff. They defeated Ravishing Rick Rude and the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, who were at that time the NWA World Tag Team Champions. Then they defeated the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette in the semifinals to make it to the finals against Tully Blanchard and Lex Luger. But before that, the Nature Boy Ric Flair and Barry Windham had it out for the NWA World Heavyweight title. Oh, that was a great match. That was a great match. It could have went either way. But in the end, the Nature Boy pulled the tights to defeat Barry Windham to keep the NWA World Heavyweight title. Then, of course, the emotional return of Magnum TA, the man that doctors say would never walk again after that horrific accident in October of 1986. He walked with his help of his crutches up to ringside where he got the emotional embrace from both Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff. Think about that. Nikita and Magnum were rivals 1 year ago. Now they're embracing each other. Great moment right there. Great moment. Then, of course, the finals of the Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament. Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff defeated Lex Luger and Tully Blanchard. Great win by them. They won the cup and that $1 million check. I remember that. I was like, that's a lot of bread, man. That's a lot of bread. That's $500,000 a piece. I was like, ooh, I want that type of money. Oh, unbelievable. But Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff won the Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament. just as big as WrestleMania 3 as far as I'm concerned. Speaking of which, let's talk about the World Wrestling Federation. WrestleMania 3 was history. Hulkamania was running wild, and now he was getting ready to feud with the king of the World Wrestling Federation, Harley Race. They started having their one-on-one matches throughout the country, where Harley Race would lose to Hulk Hogan and then challenge Hulk Hogan to a Texas death match for the World Wrestling Federation title. Of course, the Macho Man Randy Savage was trying to regain the Intercontinental title from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. They started having their cage matches for the Intercontinental title. Unfortunately, Ricky's reign would last about 2 months after WrestleMania, and I'll talk more about that on a future episode of Nitro Memories. Also happened around that time, the Hart Foundation continued to be dominant as the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions, defeating not only the Killer Bees, but the Hart Foundation, and they continue to roll on as Tag Team Champions with Jimmy Hart and, of course, that crooked referee, dangerous Danny Davis. He ain't so dangerous, folks. But, of course, 1987 also brought in the Doctor of the Prominence, the Doctor of Style, Slick. Slick started coming up in the managerial ranks when he brought in the Natural, Butch Reed, to the World Wrestling Federation. He got a big win over Coco Beware at WrestleMania, and the Natural continued to rise up until he was going to challenge Hulk Hogan for the World Wrestling Federation heavyweight title in the summer of 1987. And that was basically the fallout of WrestleMania 3 as we continue on down the road into the spring of 87. Meanwhile, in the AWA, Kurt Hennig was preparing to meet Nick Bockwinkel at Super Clash 2 in San Francisco, California at the Cow Palace for the AWA World Heavyweight title. This would begin the heel turn of Kurt Hennig into Cool Kurt Hennig with the help, of course, of the self-proclaimed living legend, Larry Zbyszko. Meanwhile, in World Class Championship Wrestling, tragedy struck when Mike Von Erich committed suicide on April 17th of that year, was found in his sleeping bag at Lake Louisville, Texas. Tragic ending for Mike. He battled toxic shock syndrome, but he couldn't recover fully as a wrestler or as a competitor. So, unfortunately, he took that route, and it was another tragedy that the Von Erichs had to endure. You'll have to excuse me on that. I'll tear that down. And that was a definite tragedy as far as I was concerned. So, unreal at that particular point. Meanwhile, World Class started seeing declining in attendance still happening when you got Nord the Barbarian challenging Kevin Von Erich for the World Class Heavyweight Championship. Well, that basically sums up April of 1987. That is it for this edition of the Nitro Memories. Next time, we'll take a look at May 1987. The WWF continues to roll on with Hogan and Race, Steamboat and Savage. Meanwhile, in the NWA, Ric Flair is about to start a war with the Garvins. Very interesting. And, of course, the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez and Rick Rude were starting to wind down as NWA World Tag Team Champions. That will be next time on Nitro Memories. Until then, I'm Paul the Nitro Skivers saying so long, everybody. We'll see you next time on Nitro Memories.